is Mystery Meat's Fine Dining podcast, helping foodies discover new restaurants and new friends. Here's your host, the founder of Mystery Meat, Seth Ressler.
Hello and welcome to Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Seth Ressler. I am the founder of Mystery Meat, and I'm excited because today we're going to Chicago. We're going to be talking to Jessica Burson of the Bunny and Brandy Brunch Time blog. She's got a great restaurant recommendation. We're going to talk to her about that and also find out about everything that a foodie really needs to know about the city of Chicago. We'll start by talking to her about her blog, and then we'll get into sort of an overview of the city, get her restaurant recommendation, and we'll end by playing Out of the Frying Pan. But before we get there, I do want to let everybody know about Mystery Meat. Mystery Meat is a social dining group that we started in the city of Boston. It's a bunch of foodies that just get together to have a meal. There's just one catch. They don't actually know where they're going until 24 hours in advance. So they buy tickets. They get some clues, but they literally have no idea where they're going to go. And then we tell them the day before, and they all show up, and they have a great meal where they basically just sit around with other people who love to talk about food. So it's for adventurous foodies. If you want one in your city, you've got to go to our website, mysterymeat, meet.org. Click the big orange button that says Get an Invitation, and sign up to get an invitation in your city. And when we see enough interest in a particular city, we'll start a Mystery Meat dinner. It's that simple. All right, let's talk to Jessica. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here.
This is exciting. We haven't been to Chicago yet. You're our first.
Oh, awesome.
So tell me a little bit about your blog. I mean, you write under the name Brandy. It's Bunny and Brandy's Brunch Time blog.
I started it with a photographer friend of mine, and we just needed an excuse to do something creative and wanted to see each other once a week. So we started meeting up on Sundays for brunch. And we just kind of came up with the idea of doing it as these two old British ladies instead of as ourselves, playing to my strengths as a fiction writer as opposed to a journalistic writer. So that was basically how it started.
And I gotta say, going through the entries, you have a really unique voice when you write about, food. It's not like any other food blog I've seen. It's very, very interesting in that sense.
Thank you. That was our goal.
So what is the difference between the characters of Bunny and Brandy?
I basically imagine Bunny and Brandy as being me and Miranda, who's the friend I started the blog with, as old ladies. And Brandy is kind of an old lush, kind of travel weary, ready to kind of just settle down in one place. And Bunny is still out there exploring and coming up with different tidbits.
So definitely check out the blog. Tell me a little bit about the city of Chicago. If I'm a foodie coming to Chicago for the first time, what do I really need to know?
The best thing to know is come during the summer, because that's when the festivals are. And that's when all of the restaurants really have access to a lot of great ingredients. Usually there's events going on within the restaurants, within the festivals. It's just kind of a buzzing time. There's really no way to go wrong food-wise in Chicago. If you have a taste for something, it's here.
So if I'm in for just a weekend or a business trip or something like that, I only have time to explore a couple of neighborhoods. Where would I go?
First off, just start downtown. It's so beautiful. Just the architecture, first of all. There's street food. There's fine dining. You've got, chefs like Rick Bayless has Fonterra Grill downtown, some kind of big names, stuff like that. And then if you wanted to get into a little bit of a different spot, Wicker Park is a really nice place with a lot of great restaurants. You've got Mindy's Hot Chocolate, which I think just got James Beard Award this past year, and they do dinner as well. Everybody thinks they just do dessert. They do dinner too.
And what are sort of the big events throughout the year that a foodie would want to go to?
The biggest event is probably Taste of Chicago, which usually happens around the beginning of July. And it's a free event. There's no ticket to get in. You can just go to the park in Grant Park downtown, and there's booths set up from restaurants all over the city. And for just a couple of bucks, you can get tastes from each of these places. You can get like half a cheeseburger from the Billy Goat Tavern, which is, a real big famous place out here. And you can just kind of do that. Or if you wanted a little bit more of a fancy event, the Chicago Gourmet Festival happens at the end of September. That one you do buy a ticket for, but that includes all of your food and drink. And there's a lot of food and drink.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I look for in a foodie event.
Yes.
So tell me, you've been blogging now for about 2 years, right?
Uh-huh.
In that time, are there any trends that you started to see pop up in the city of Chicago? I mean, what's new that's happening?
I can really only speak from the brunch trends myself. There's a definite movement towards creative cocktails at breakfast, getting away from just maybe the regular Bloody Marys or mimosas. A lot of people are drinking hard liquor early in the mornings now, which I like. It's a good thing.
Have you had any favorites? Anything that you've really enjoyed?
Owen and Engine, which is a really great kind of British gastropub, has a lot of very seasonal cocktails. They had a cocktail when we were there called Mum's Punch, and it just tasted like Christmas. It was fantastic, kind of fruity and spicy, and it tasted like home. It was really good.
All right, breakfast cocktails, drinking early in the morning. That's a trend that we're starting to see in Chicago, and hopefully will spread
Most
to the rest of the
definitely.
country.
Creative drinking in the morning.
Well, your restaurant recommendation, I know, is in the Lakeview neighborhood.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about the neighborhood before we get to the restaurant.
Sure, it's actually the neighborhood I live in. There is so much to explore in Lakeview, and everything is accessible within walking distance. Most people, when they hear Lakeview, they think Wrigleyville, because that's where Wrigley Field is. There's actually a lot of really interesting restaurants and a lot of really interesting boutique stores in Lakeview. I've spent many afternoons just wandering down the streets, going in and out of shops, buying gourmet cupcakes, buying crazy coffee drinks. There's just everything here.
And your restaurant recommendation, tell us about it.
It's Frog and Snail, which opened just this past March. And the head chef there is Dale Levinsky, who a lot of people know from Top Chef. He was the one with kind of the faux hawk. And he was actually one of my favorite contestants. So when I found out he was opening a restaurant in Lakeview, I was super excited.
Oh, very cool. And tell me a little bit about the decor. I mean, you walk in, and what's the vibe in this place?
It's surprisingly homey. It's a lot of people were hesitant about it. They were thinking it was going to be kind of a stuck-up, kind of frou-frou place, and it really isn't. It makes you feel very much at home. There's very warm, inviting colors, lots of woods, and the space is really great. I was actually very familiar with the former restaurant in that space, and the way that they've transformed it is just amazing.
Yeah, I saw some pictures online. I mean, it looked like a lot of warm woods and very, very bright, and it was nice.
Yeah, and it's definitely got a sense of humor, too, which I always love in a restaurant.
Oh, very cool. So tell me a little bit about the concept and the cuisine.
I think that they have said that it's a Midwestern bistro. I think, in my opinion, it's a parody of French cuisine. They do a lot of very French things, but they do it in a very creative way with a lot of whimsy and a lot of humor to it.
So I sit down, I'm looking at the menu. Is there an appetizer you recommend?
The appetizer that I had gotten, which I absolutely loved, and maybe wasn't necessarily an appetizer, but perfect, was the peach and mushroom crepes, which sounds weird, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, how do those two work together?
They don't make the peaches overly sweet. They actually end up being somewhat tart, almost like a tomato. And that, combined with the earthiness of the mushrooms, and then you get this creamy goat cheese. And they do the crepes in such a way that they're very crisp on the outside and then just kind of chewy in the middle. And you don't think it's going to work until you take that first bite, and it really does.
Oh, that does actually sound really, really good. All right, so let's move on to a main dish. What do you recommend?
There's a dish called the hodgepodge, which I had gotten as a sandwich, but I understand it's now being served also as a crepe, and in a black pepper crepe. It's basically a really creative use of kitchen scraps. They're taking scraps off of ribeye steak, skirt steak, New York strip, whatever steaks they've had to make other dishes, and they're sauteing them up with some vegetables, some carrots, and some leeks, and it's almost like a stir fry. And it's a really unique kind of peppery flavor that you don't see a lot in brunch. You see a lot more of the sweet stuff, and I like that they concentrated more on the savory.
Now, we're talking brunch here, so I assume, we need some coffee in the morning.
Absolutely.
All right. Tell me about the coffee selection.
They have really creative coffees because they didn't have their liquor license when they first opened, so they decided to do a coffee bar instead. And so they've got some really creative things. They've got one drink that's, it's called the Strawberry Coconut Elderflower, and it's basically a steamed milk drink, but it's exactly what it says. It's got strawberry elderflower and coconut milk, and it is so sweet and refreshing.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, I know we're talking about brunch here. Can I do dessert at brunch? Is that...
Absolutely.
That's legal? That's okay?
Oh, yeah. As long as you had your savory first, then you can have your sweet.
All right, I didn't know that was the rule. That's a good rule. I think that's going to be my rule from now on.
Good.
So what are my options for dessert?
They have a fantastic coffee cake. It's got a hazelnut streusel on the top of it. Really decadent. But again, you expect it to be kind of fancy, and then it is, but it's also homey, and it makes you feel good. It makes your soul feel good.
Done. I'm in. I'm sold. All right, now I know where to go next time I'm in Chicago.
Excellent.
Thank you for the great restaurant recommendation. Are you ready to play a game?
I am.
This game is called Out of the Frying Pan. Here's how it works. I'm going to ask you for some restaurant recommendations. You just tell me the first thing that pops into your head, okay?
Okay.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Tell me the place that has the best wine list in Chicago.
Best wine list. I have been to dinner a couple of times at Ing, spelled I-N-G, one of Homaro Cantu's restaurants, and they actually have a fantastic wine list that changes with the season. So the sommelier will actually come over and let you know why they picked the wine to match the dish. They do all the matching for you, so you don't have to make any guesses, and it makes it really easy and really fun.
All right. What's your favorite sandwich shop?
Favorite sandwich shop? Frank's and Dogs. It's a little bit of a cheat because they're hot dogs, but they're almost more like gourmet sandwiches. They have actually a brunch dog, which is great. It's like a pork sausage with a fried egg and maple aioli. And it's in the heart of Lincoln Park. Really fantastic spot with triple truffle fries.
What's your favorite name for a restaurant in Chicago?
I'm going to have to go with Wilde. It's named after Oscar Wilde, and it's entirely Oscar Wilde themed. And I really love the writings of Oscar Wilde.
What's your favorite barbecue joint?
Heaven on Seven. It's in the middle of downtown. Really good sauces.
Do you have a favorite food truck?
We are not allowed to have food trucks in Chicago. It's illegal to cook on a food truck.
Really? So you're one of the few cities that has not been able to cash in on this? Because every time I talk to people in different cities and I say, what's the new trend there? They're all saying food trucks.
Yeah, it's a big issue here in Chicago. We are allowed to you can have food that is warmed on a truck. You can have cold food, but you can't cook on the truck.
So you can't take raw ingredients and cook them, huh?
You can't have a heating element on the truck, I think is what it is.
All right, so we'll take none of the above as your answer. All right, finally, what is your favorite sushi restaurant?
Favorite sushi restaurant? There's a place near my apartment in Lakeview called Diva Sushi. They have a couple of really fun rolls. One's called the Drag Queen roll, and that's my favorite.
All right. You did fantastic. You were great at that game. So
good.
I'm going to be honest. This is how we figure out who the real foodies are. This is our little way to test. And you pass with flying colors. So
yay. All
right, cool. Frog and Snail. You can find it in the Lakeview neighborhood in Chicago. It's at 3124 North Broadway. And you can go online, snail.com. And then if we want to follow you on social media or online, how can we do that?
Our website is bunnyandbrandy.com. We're on Twitter under @bunnyandbrandy. And we've got a Facebook page. Links to both of them are on the homepage of our website.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Thank you. This was fun.
I'm Seth Ressler. I'm your host for Fine Dining. If you want a Mystery Meat dinner in your town, all you got to do is go to mysterymeat.org, click that big orange button to get an invitation and sign up. If you like this podcast, do us a favor. Go look it up in iTunes and leave a rating there. That spreads the word and lets other people know about the podcast. And if you are a food blogger, you want to recommend a restaurant for the rest of the country, please just go to mysterymeat.org and click the Contact Us link and send us an email. We'd love to have you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
This has been Mystery Meat's Fine Dining Podcast. You can find links to the websites mentioned in this episode at mysterymeat.org/podcast. Thank you for listening.